Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Get your cameras on, get your mics going. We're ready to roll. Awesome. Awesome. Hi, Josh. Hi, Bree. Hi, Christy.
Hey.
We'll let everybody jump on here. Welcome. It's Thursday night, just about 6:30. Everybody doing okay? You guys survive Halloween, all the hyped up kids after eating all their candy, huh? Cool, cool, cool. Okay, well, it's 6:31. We're gonna get rolling. Again, this is being recorded, so I do send this out, and if by some slim chance you happen to miss the meeting, I do accept notes after watching the video, just bullet point notes. I don't like you guys to miss meetings because I think you're missing out, but life happens. So if that is an option as long as I get them in by Sunday. Okay. No point in watching this meeting a week from now because we're kind of getting everything rolling. So that is always an option. A little bit of housekeeping here. Everybody's doing great. I think everybody has everything in. There's a couple people that are missing a few items, and I've reached out to them. But otherwise, great job of getting your stuff in. I know you guys are busy, with your class. For my 650B students, of course, you have cycle 1 and 2 that is very horrendous, and I appreciate it. I appreciate your hard efforts. And again, if you need extra time on an assignment, I am flexible. I do put zeros in just to motivate you that's what it'll be if I don't get it, but then I go back and change it. So I do appreciate you letting me know if you're going to be late on any assignment. As you know, the second Sunday of the month is when your lesson plan is due. The third Sunday is when your observation video is due. And the final Sunday is when your running record and ISV hours need to be posted. So you guys doing a great job on that. Okay. I do want to say for my 650B students, stick around when we're done because month 4 is a different month for you. There's going to be individual development plan that you're going to be required to do, but that will take the place of the video and the lesson plan. Okay, so I just want to spend a few moments going on that for my 650B only. 650As just move right along. Okay. All right. First of all, before we get going, we're going to talk about assessing today, how you assess and how you collect that data, and if you use it for anything. Then I do want to touch a little bit on the interview process and some tips about interviewing when you guys are going to be interviewing for your jobs. Because some school districts will hire midterm. They'll be hiring in January, so it's possible that interviews could be happening now. For most people, those interviews for jobs occur at the end of the spring, the second semester. So we'll just touch bases on that. Okay, so that's pretty much the agenda for today. Okay, does anybody have any before we get into that, any concerns of anything that's going on? Don't be afraid to ask a question, because if you have a thought, somebody else probably does as well. So first of all, you guys can hear me okay, right? Okay. I have 9 students and there's only 3 here. That is a little disappointing, but I understand. And some people may be jumping in late. That just means you guys got to do 3 times the work tonight. Okay. So anyway, that gets us up to 9, right? Okay, let's get some participation going. Anybody have any concerns, anything you want to share, a win, or maybe not so much a win that has occurred since we last met? Okay, Christy, Bree, Josh, anything going on in your teaching life?
I had 78% of my students complete science fair, which is the highest we've had in a very long time, probably ever. So that was a win for me.
That is really impressive because, as you know, that's extra work for them.
On both of our parts, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you reach such a high participation?
So it's a requirement at our school. But a lot of students will take the F the first quarter to just not have to deal with it. But this year we did an in-class science fair experiment and really modeled all of that for a solid week. And then they had this nice template that they could kind of go in and modify and use to model their own experiment. And I think that cleared up a lot of like the confusion that they had, and it gave them a real experience. And it wasn't this big daunting task. It was, look how feasible this was. We did this in class in a week. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
Okay, so you do you think maybe that overcame a lot of hesitation and fear that might have prevented them?
Yeah, I think seeing, when we say, oh, we're going to write our hypothesis paragraphs, to them, that's like a mini essay. But when we worked through it together, we were able to do it in 20 minutes in class with a simple popcorn experiment, and they got to eat the popcorn. So it was just kind of, it gave them hands-on, and it took away some of those fears and made it much more feasible because they'd already did it with some help.
What you're hitting on is perfect, because I think what can slow students down is fear. Okay, even in engaging in your class, the fear of saying something wrong or fear of looking stupid. So I think what you hit on, congratulations, because that obviously paid off. And that's something to keep in mind as you're a teacher. When you engage these students, do you present a classroom that is fearless, that's free, and the kids feel comfortable with things? Or do you not? Or do you not know? Okay, if you don't know, then it's probably not a fearless class. If you don't know, then they probably have some fears. Okay, and so that's something, it's off track for today, but I love it because I think it's a key part of getting kids to engage. Okay, what I'm seeing in your videos, by the way, you guys are doing a fantastic job with your teaching across the board. What I see in there is a lot of engagement. My question is, are you relying on students to raise their hand to get engaged, or are you pointing them out? How many of you point out kids by name and make a mental note to call on the kids that maybe might be hesitant to raise their hand? How many of you do that? All of you. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, I love it. I love it. Anybody else want to share a win? We're sharing wins. Let me see, Pop. Is that Brittany? Is that you just came in?
Yeah, it's me. Sorry I was late. I was at my parents' and got caught up here. I'm having like car trouble, so I had to steal their laptop to get on, but
No worries.
I'm here now.
No worries. Gotcha. So again, anybody want to share a win? Again, I love watching how you teach. And by the way, Brittany, you know what I love is you have a cameraman that follows you around, right? That I appreciate it, because I get to see everything instead of just one camera there. I don't know if it's a student following you around, maybe give them extra credit, but that's a great idea for videos. Whatever you do, what I'm seeing, everybody, is that when she's teaching, it's like she has her own camera crew. They follow her around, so I get to see, her close up interacting with the students. So it's really beneficial on my part. So who does that, by the way?
He's actually a para that has like a free period during my biology class. So he just pops in, and he actually is a good friend of mine. We went to high school together.
Oh, nice. Okay, good job, Brittany. Okay, perfect. Anybody else real quickly have a win they want to share before we get into assessing? Or even maybe not a win? Yes, Josh.
So I kind of mixed up my, we do CERs, claim evidence reasonings, in every year in science. So I mixed it up because I've noticed across the board, I can write as much feedback as I want on them. Not every student's going to read that feedback. So instead I have them pair up, do the CER, and then I said, once you're done, I'm going to call on you. And I brought both of them up, and then we actually went over it together so I could actually rebut it in front of them and show them like, okay, here's what you put your data in there for your evidence. Now, what does that mean when you come to reasoning? So I got better feedback, I think, from the students doing it that way than just a traditional write it down and I'll send some feedback.
Now,
which was
Josh,
nice.
is this two students coming up and just the three of you talking, or is the
Mhm.
whole class getting?
No,
in?
2 at a time. So
Okay.
the others get a chance to finish the exercise, or I had another assignment in case they had moved on, and that way I could talk more on 1-on-2 or 1-on-1 basis.
So in a way, you're checking for understanding, you're assessing, they're presenting to you their understanding. Right? Am I reading that correct?
Yeah, and we were talking about fear earlier, and I know like students they just hate CERs because it's higher order thinking. They don't want to do it and stuff. So I was hoping it would take away some of that stigma, and I think it did.
I think it does too, because it's not in front of the whole class. It's just the three of you. Good idea. Good idea and you know what? You couldn't do that without great
Classroom.
class control. There you go. All right. And I must admit, all you guys are doing an amazing job with class control. Okay. All right. So what I want to discuss a little bit is assessing and how you use that assessing, how you use that assessment data, okay, to plan either the next lesson or modify the current lesson, or is that part of your plan at all, as opposed to teaching a unit, giving a test, grading it, done with it, move on. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask a rhetorical question because it should be obvious. Which is a better, more effective way to assess? To assess kind of like what Josh does, because that's perfect. Use the information from the assessment to make your lesson better, or to get the lesson done and assess afterwards. That's not a good way to do it. I'll just tell you that right now. So how many of you are able, because that's a higher teaching skill, believe it or not. If you are doing that, you are teaching at a higher level. Most teachers won't do that. They'll just grade it, give a test at the end and be done. How many of you are able to, or feel like you can, develop into your teaching during a lesson assessment that can be used to either change things on the fly or maybe reflect and adjust things the next day, or some sort of an adjustment? Anybody want to share anything that maybe they are doing? These are higher level teaching skills. We know Josh is doing it.
So one way that I do that is when we are not necessarily finished with the lesson, but maybe approaching towards that like summative assessment, I'll do like a Bookit or a Kahoot, like something game based, so that I can kind of get that data on the trends, like what points are still are confusing them. Are they scoring 70 or higher? And that'll really inform how I review with them and what I need to reteach before the summative assessment. So that's one way I can use gameplay to my benefit. And then they have like a focus note card. So instead of having to study everything from that unit, the things that they put on their note card are the types of questions that they were struggling with in the Bookit or the Kahoot. I've also just done like checks for understandings, like when we're talking about graphing, like show me your X and your Y, that kind of thing. If they can't show me, then I know whatever's going to come next is going to fall on deaf ears. So sometimes I'll have to stop and incorporate some of those cross-cutting concepts and kind of revisit things that maybe they should have had in math in a previous year or this current year. Maybe they haven't got there, but make sure that they kind of have that foundation to build off before I can move forward.
Love it. Love it. Now, teaching like this slows a lesson down without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think it creates better learners, more effective learners? Unless you are tied to a timetable like an AP test or something like this, where you have to move on, this is how it should be done. And one thing I will say, you're all doing it. Okay, I know you're all doing it, what we talked about. Whether you admit it or not, whether you realize or not, you're all doing this because the nature of labs, if you're interacting with your students during a lab, guess what? You're assessing them and you're finding out where they're at. And then you're taking that information and discussing with them during the lab and making it more effective and a deeper learning. So you're all doing it. Okay. Anybody want to share anything else regarding assessing what you guys are doing that you really enjoy?
My friend, she's the math teacher. She just recommended like a quick informal assessment when I was struggling to kind of figure out for the Cal TPA stuff actually.
Uh-huh.
And what she does and what I just tried actually this week is she'll give the students whiteboards with their own markers and everything and just ask them questions and have them hold up their answers so you can see who's got it wrong and who has it right. But before she goes over that, she'll invite a couple students up who have like opposing answers and put them on the main whiteboard and discuss why they think they're right, or have a debate kind of, and then I as the teacher would go over it with them and kind of take what was good from each, and so everyone doesn't feel terrible. But that's
Right.
been really cool and the kids seem to enjoy it.
They do. And again, without great class control, this could never be done. And without the ability to make the kids feel comfortable in the class, they would never do this. It would be a struggle every time. So those are two key factors on effective learning that are being done in order to create the whiteboard situation that's effective. So love it. Okay. Thanks, Brindy. Okay. How many, does anybody have students that just are not getting it? They're just struggling. Christy? Did you raise your hand?
I did, yes. I have one. I've worked with her one-on-one, and she just sent me a note today that says she quit. She sent, it was a homework or an assignment on Canvas, and she submitted it. She said, I answered the first question to the best of my ability. Here's my answer for the second one, and I think I'm going to fail this class anyway, so I quit, and it broke my heart. So I have at least one student who is not getting it.
What are you going to do with that kid?
I am going to pull her aside and work with her. And it's very hard to fail my class because we have a school where our minimum, we start our grades at 50%. So they don't have that giant gap to overcome if they're failing. So as long as she turns in a couple of things, she'll see her grade come up real fast. So if I work with her to get a couple of things done, then hopefully that will motivate her and keep her going.
That's the way to do it. I call it progression.
Yeah.
Little steps. There's, you see all kinds of phrases, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. There's nothing wrong with adjusting your grading scale to fit a student like this, and maybe give massive points for effort and participation. So if they get 3 things done out of 20, and then the next time it's 4, that's a 25% improvement over the last time. So, they're obviously being overwhelmed. And so kind of pushing back on that as a teacher and recognizing that this student is trying, they're communicating with you, but they're frustrated. Refocus exactly what you're doing and just work with that student, because students like that will catch up at some point, and you're going to save them.
I had one last year who was in the same boat, and he failed like almost all the way through the year until the very end. And then it really clicked. He got one thing done. I called his mom and said, he had a great day today. He was on in science. And she goes, I'm going to buy him a cheeseburger or whatever. And then that motivated him for the rest of the year. So he ended up earning a B in my class because he continued to improve.
There you go.
So
as long as you're being real and genuine with these kids and showing that you care, they're pretty much going to come around. Even the hard ass ones that, made throw up every roadblock in the world. We're all human. and we all want to have success. There's nobody that I've ever met in my life that doesn't want to achieve in some capacity. So you just got to figure out the angle with kids like that. Okay. Anybody else have any kids like that? Brindy, Josh?
Yeah, I have a kid that is kind of in the same boat. Like but it's changed in the last couple weeks. But he is, I think, because of his social standing with a female student, she's kind of motivating him to work, and it has less to do with me. But if he doesn't know within the first problem, I've seen him do it outside of science with math, then it's just shut down. Like, and then he'll talk to another male student in the classroom and get distracted. And but ever since he started, I would call it dating, but middle school dating a girl in the class, he's kind of like, she prompts him like, hey, this is important, so do this. But I still, at some point, knowing it's middle school, I got to figure out some way that I can provide some motivation to keep that going, because he's turning in work much more regularly and not giving up with her influence.
Well, good. Your motivation can simply come from your support. Okay, if it's working, support it. And then you are contributing highly to that. So recognizing that, I mean, that's a big deal. And whatever floats their boat, whatever gets them to engage in your class is going to work. Okay. We good? Anybody else want to share anything with assessing and getting these kids to actually get involved?
I'll share one more thing.
Yeah, Christy.
Is one of my wins for this week too. My students didn't do well on one of their quizzes recently, and I retaught, and then I don't know, I informally assessed a whole bunch of times, and I felt like they finally got the concept, and I gave them a quiz yesterday, and it was the highest score. The 8th grade average was a 90%, which is kind of unheard of. So it's very exciting.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, when I see them succeed and they were all proud of themselves, it's fun.
Yeah. Like I said, just keep in mind, no matter what is being projected towards you, everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to have success. Nobody wants to fail. Even if they say they don't care, they do. They just want to take the tough route, and it doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to every one of them. So if you kind of have that mindset, you're going to find a way to crack through and get them to open up. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to share on this topic of assessing and wins and getting kids to engage, or maybe kids that you're struggling with and they're just, you don't see a way out with them, because they're there too.
I was gonna say, I have one student that's kind of doing the same stuff that like Josh mentioned, and also Christy. She just doesn't seem to care, like gives up first question, doesn't get it, so gives up on the rest of it. Anytime I put her in like a group situation, it doesn't matter what group I put her with, she just allows the other kids to be workhorses, and I don't know how to like motivate her, as it doesn't seem like anything works. When it comes to tests, I've told her like she can retake tests, and she won't come in to retake them, even though the option's there. I've told her I would even go through it with her. So I'm not really sure what to do with this one particular student. And during like our staff meeting today, she was brought up, other teachers are having the same problems, and no one seems to be coming up with any good answers yet.
Okay. Feedback from anybody want to share a thought for this mystery student who just is not engaging at all, maybe help Miss Young out?
I mean, I have a decent amount of students like that. That I won't say that they're my A students, but I let them know, like, I noticed them, like, if they missed the day before, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I missed you. I'm glad you're back. Were you feeling sick?" Like, just small little check-ins. And slowly I'll start to see them try just a little bit harder because I'm someone that did pay attention to them, or I'll have like warm-up questions where they kind of tell me about themselves. And I don't disclose what they told me because I don't want to like invalidate our trust, but I'll if they say like their sibling plays soccer or something, like, "Oh, I watched a soccer game and I thought of you. When's your guys' next game?" Like just small things like that so that they know I actually do care about them as a person and not just their grade. I've seen them try a little bit harder in my class than maybe some others who aren't doing that. Like I said, it's not that they're the 4.0s anymore, but at least they know that someone there is happy about them. And that seems to work a little.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. I was going to suggest showing that you care. And that's exactly what you're doing. You know,
Right.
and it's very subtle. It sounds to me, Bree, it's very subtle what you're doing. You're just noticing them. And over time, hey, Miss Bree notices me, you know. We all want to be noticed. And so I think that is cracking through, and you're starting to see where they actually want to please you. They want to learn for you. So that's what I would suggest. Just, just give them a little bit of love.
This student, she's interesting because I have a very small class. This is my earth science class. It's not even my main class of focus. And there's like 7 kids in there. So I do give her attention because it's pretty easy and she responds well to it. She'll respond well to it for like a day and then it'll taper off. And even if I'm consistent with it, I think she tells me you're my favorite teacher, but she's not putting in the effort because I think she just hates school. I'm not sure. She's a different one.
All right.
She does have a 504 plan, but she kind of seems to milk things too. I don't know if it's just a work ethic thing. So I'm trying to figure out what motivates her. And I do notice that she really enjoys like games and stuff. So maybe just incorporating more of that. Maybe that could be like her motivation.
Well, I think you're hitting right on because you know what she enjoys. So if you can somehow jump on that a little bit, just a little bit, I think you're going to start seeing her come around. And sometimes these wins just are a period or a day, and then they regress back. Okay. But that's one day that was successful as to one day that was not successful. So just, keep doing that. I think you're onto something for sure.
I just want to add, I had a female student last year that was just like that. And I had to just be very consistent with her. And she eventually let me know, like, she has a rough relationship with her mom who kind of comes in and out. So she's kind of used to an adult showing interest and then kind of disappearing for her. So even on our hard days or days where, I had to make her take her nose piercing out and she wanted to throw a fit, or I had to take her phone and I would just tell her, like, that attitude doesn't work for me. I still love you. We're having a bad day. We're going to get through it. And just holding her accountable, but letting her know, like, there's nothing you can say or do that's going to make me stop caring about you. So let's just get through our day. Really worked for her. And she was one of my best students by the end of the year. And she's a student that has a reputation for being hard to handle, and the kids are kind of afraid of her. And she had my back like no one else by the end of the year. I didn't even need to ask kids to quiet down. She would just look at them.
I love it. I love it. You're taking a route that most teachers won't do. Most teachers will write these kids off and not give them the time of day. I got 28 other kids. Why should I worry about this one? It takes work to do what you're doing, but it's very satisfying as a teacher, and it's the right thing to do. I'm glad you're sharing this with us all, because I think it's something we all need to hear, to be patient and not let our emotions overtake us with students that frustrate us. And just, you are a professional. So let's act like professionals. Let's do what professionals do, which is exactly what you're doing. So right on. What I noticed too, all of you that are here, the way you teach is the same way you hold yourself in this Zoom. You guys are all very calm and composed when you teach. You're very much in control when you teach. I watch that a lot. And I watch how your students respond to you. So yeah, hats off to that. This is probably the best group of teachers I've had in one setting with National. You're making my job very easy to watch you guys. So just hats off to how you're teaching. And I think what I see is you guys are being real. You're being genuine. You're not trying to fit into a mold of something else. This is who you are. This is how you teach. And that's the most effective way to teach because it's the most enjoyable. I did want to touch base a little bit on your professional life coming up in terms of landing a job. Okay. Now, one of the TPEs talks about the interview process. Okay. The beauty of being an intern, you're interviewing every day. Everything you do is an interview. People are noticing what you do. The administrators are noticing what you do. Parents are noticing what you're doing. You're being interviewed every day. So as long as you show that you care and you have great class control, I'll tell you right now, that's what administrators want. They don't want to hire a teacher that cannot control a class because they don't want to deal with that. And they don't want to have anybody else deal with it. So that's another reason why class control is so important, because when an administrator comes in your class, and they do, right? How many of you have had admins walk in your class in the middle of a period? Right? How many of you had them unannounced come in? Did they ever come in unannounced? Of course they do, right? Oh, I forgot to tell you, I'm coming in. What do you think they're doing? They're seeing you in action. And action goes a lot further than an interview. It'll come to where the interview will almost be a formality. Okay, so just keep that in mind as you guys teach. You're already building a potential job. Now, maybe you don't want to teach where you're at, and maybe you do. But either way, that's what's going on when you guys teach every day. And that is a big advantage that you guys have, especially if you want to land a job at the school you're at. Okay. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Okay. What I'd like you guys to do is basically reflect a little bit on your own teaching practice and what you can do to be great teachers as opposed to good teachers. What do great teachers do? Okay, and reflect a little bit on that. And that's going to lead me into basically the close, except for my 650B people. Okay, because that's what the individual development plan is all about. It's all about reflection on how you teach. So, but keep that in mind. The more you reflect, the better you're going to be. I would always keep a journal on my desk, and I would just have it there. So if something popped in my head, I wanted to write it down because I would probably forget it by the end of the day. So that was a good practice I do. I recommend doing it. Maybe a little tape recorder, something, just for you to reflect on a lesson, because that's how we improve, right? Okay. Again, this is being recorded, and if you ever miss one of these, just simply write the bullet points of what we discussed that hit home with you. Might not be a bad idea just to do this for you four that are here, just to maybe take some quick notes of anything that kind of stuck out so you'll remember it. Hopefully there's a takeaway that'll make your life better as a teacher tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. That's what it's all about. It's all about collaboration. It's all about working with others. the teachers you teach with, reach out to them. I encourage you guys to watch other teachers teach, because that'll show you what you do want to do or maybe what you don't want to do. But don't ever change one thing. Don't ever stop being yourself. Okay? Always be yourself. Okay. So I think if I know Josh and because you're a 650B, Brendy, you are too. Christy, you're in your first year, right? You're 650A, and Bree as well. Okay. You guys are free to go unless you want to hang around. I just want to spend a few minutes talking about the individual development plan, which you guys will be doing next semester, and I'm sure it'll be with me. So, but that's up to you. If you need to go, that's fine. Again, thank you guys for attending, and I appreciate your efforts and your work. Keep it going. Oh, I want to mention one thing. I almost forgot. I had it written down. We are in month 3 coming up, right? So the lesson plan templates do change. You're aware of that. So don't forget to, when you go there and you upload your lesson plan and you do it, that you're looking at the lesson plans for, well, I call it the 3rd and 4th month, but if you're in the 650B, I think it's the, what is that, the 7th month, whatever. Make sure you use the proper lesson plan. And I encourage you guys, when you write your lesson plan, to have the rubric right next to you. Print out the rubric. So when you're filling out your lesson plan, you look at the rubric and make sure if it's on the rubric, it's in the lesson plan. Okay, because that's what the cycle TPE people do. They check for that to make sure that's on. I encourage you to be to the point, bold-faced keywords. Okay, a lot of you doing this anyway. Bullet points are good when you're talking about things you do instead of paragraph form. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Bullet points are good. So, but don't forget to switch over to the new template, because it does change after the 2nd month, and we are now in the 3rd month. I did get a notice today for the 650B people. They are now allowing you to use the cycle TPE templates that you're using for this class. So if that makes your life easier, because you can just simply submit the same one to me instead of copying and pasting, that's fine. Okay, they didn't allow that, but that's a new thing. So I think that's a good thing. But you can also just use the templates that they line up as well. So you have choice there. Okay. All right. Talk a
Can I
little
ask you
bit.
a question?
Question?
Sorry, can I ask you
Yes.
a question? I think I started a month behind everybody else, so I assume I'm still using the.
Thank you, Christy. Yes. Yes, because you are, yeah, you did start a month. So you're still on the same template that you used for the 1st month.
Okay,
Because
sounds good.
you're going into month 2. Everybody else going to
Right.
month 3 and 4.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now the individual development plan, I'm going to send out a video on how to fill it out. Okay. I record a video. You're also going to get a sample of it, and you're going to get directions on how to do it. It's not intimidating at all. It's actually going to save you time as opposed to videotaping your lesson and doing a lesson plan. I think it's easier. Although I do love watching you guys videotape. So, but again, this is during month 4 that you don't have to do it. So I'm talking a month away. I'm just prepping you a little bit. I'm going to send these things out to you. Okay, for you to look at. And then during the 4th month, you're going to schedule an individual meeting, okay, with me and your SSP. Okay, so for Josh, it would be you, your SSP, and me. We'll just meet on our own personal Zoom. Okay, we're always going to use the same link, and then we'll go over your individual development plan, rough draft, and it could be the final draft, because if there's nothing to change, we just go with it as is. So we will talk a lot more about that on the next PLC meeting, but I just kind of wanted to get you thinking ahead of time. But I am going to send this stuff out to you, within the next week. Okay. All right.
I just have one quick question, because I'm doing something very similar for the district as part of their, basically, once I get my credential, clearing it. That process. Is it okay to borrow? And I got to look at the one that you would send me, Professor, but is it okay to borrow elements from the one I'm already working on into this one?
As long as it's the same thing. Basically, in a nutshell, what you're doing for this individual development plan you're taking the 6 TPEs, okay, there's 6 of them. And we know every TPE has like 8 parts, right? 1.1, 1.2, 1. So on. For each TPE, let's talk TPE 1. You're going to pick two components of TPE 1 that you want to get better at.
Okay.
Just 2. And then you'll do the same for TPE 2. There's like 8, 2.1, 2.2, whatever. You're going to pick 2 of those areas of growth. That's what the individual development plan, that's the heart of it and the spirit of it. So if that fits what you're doing, absolutely. Just make sure you do it on our format.
Right.
Okay. Any questions, Brindy, from you on that?
Not yet, but I'm sure they will be coming.
Okay, I know you're in a very busy situation. We've talked a lot about that. So again, we'll work on that if whatever happens. But I'm hoping things are kind of calming down for you, right? Are you walking without crutches?
I am walking without crutches. I just have a massive leg brace right now. But
Oh my.
the kids asked me if I was gonna dress up as RoboCop or a Transformer or something for Halloween. But things are calming down. It's been a little.
Good. But for those who wonder, Brindy had an accident, right? And basically laid you up. But you were out of the class for a little bit of time, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I was out, well, for 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
It was the ACL reconstructive surgery.
Yep.
I was gonna say one of my wins actually, real quick. I know you guys are probably tired and want to go.
Oh no, we're good.
But my kids, speaking of like fear in the classroom and stuff, we're not very good presenters in the beginning of the year, and I try to make us do presentations as often as possible because I tell them you're going to utilize public speaking for a very long time, so may as
Oh,
well
good,
get
yeah.
used to it now.
Mhm.
So their project, was to make a pretty prime presentation for when I got back with a single point, and they blew my mind when I came back. I was shocked. Even my quiet kids, pulled it together and projected well. They even dressed formally, so that was really cool.
You know what? They're doing it for you. You're connecting with those kids and they want to please you. That's what you're seeing. So that's a huge win. Love it. Okay, well, I appreciate it. We went a little bit over. Holy cow, 7:13. So thank you guys for tonight, and look forward to month 3 coming up and month 2 for Christy. And we'll meet again the first Thursday of December, won't we? Except for Josh and Brindy, we'll meet separately with the individual development. Okay. All right. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.
Night.